It's 3 in the morning. You're warm, you're tired, you should be asleep. And your brain leans over and whispers, "Hey, remember that embarrassing thing you did years ago? Remember exactly how it felt." And suddenly you're wide awake, cringing in the dark, reliving a moment everyone else forgot the same day it happened. Why does the brain do this? Why does it dredge up old humiliations at the worst possible time, long after they could possibly matter? It feels like cruelty. It's actually your brain trying, clumsily, to protect you. Start with what these memories have in common. They're almost always social. The thing you said that landed wrong, the moment you misjudged the room, the time you were laughed at, or rejected, or made a fool of yourself in front of others. It's rarely a private mistake that haunts you. It's the public ones, the ones that involved other people watching. And that's the first clue, because your brain treats social mistakes as enormously important, far more important than they actually are. Here's why. For your ancestors, standing in the group was everything. Your reputation, your acceptance, your place among your people was directly tied to survival. Make a serious social blunder, embarrass yourself badly, lose face in front of the tribe, and you risked being mocked, lowered in status, or in the worst case, pushed out. And being pushed out of the group, in those days, could mean death. So the brain learned to flag social mistakes as critical, as things to be studied carefully so they're never repeated. That flagging system is still running in you, except now it's firing over things that carry no real consequence at all. The mechanism behind the replaying has a name: rumination. It's the mind's tendency to loop back over distressing experiences, turning them over and over, examining them from every angle. And it's not random or pointless from the brain's perspective. The brain is essentially treating the painful memory as an unsolved problem. Something went wrong here, it reasons, so let's keep reviewing it until we extract the lesson and make sure it never happens again. The trouble is, you learned the lesson long ago. There's nothing left to extract. But the brain doesn't know that, so it keeps reopening the file. Now, why at 3 in the morning? Why does this strike when you're trying to sleep, or in idle moments, in the shower, on a quiet walk? Because when your mind isn't occupied with a task, it doesn't go silent. It switches over to a kind of default state, a background mode that wanders through memories, worries, and social scenarios. There's a network in the brain that becomes active precisely when you're not focused on the outside world, and it loves to chew on exactly this kind of material: your relationships, your standing, your unresolved social moments. Give your brain nothing to do, and it will reach for the cringe file. That's why these memories ambush you in the quiet, not in the busy. There's also something happening with how memory itself works. The memories that get replayed are often emotionally charged ones, and emotion acts like a highlighter for memory. Experiences tied to strong feelings, especially fear, shame, or embarrassment, get encoded more deeply and stored more durably. The brain prioritizes them precisely because the emotion signals importance. So your most cringe-worthy moments are, unfortunately, among your most vividly preserved, etched in with the special permanence the brain reserves for things it thinks you must not forget. And here's the cruel feedback loop. Every time you replay the memory, you reinforce it. The brain strengthens whatever you revisit, treating repeated attention as proof of importance. So the more you cringe over the old moment, the more accessible it becomes. The more easily it surfaces next time, the more permanent it grows. You're not processing it away by replaying it. You're carving it deeper. Rumination promises relief, a sense that if you just think it through enough, you'll finally be done with it, but it almost never delivers. It just keeps the wound open. It helps enormously to realize one liberating fact. Nobody else remembers. That excruciating thing you said, that moment you're still reliving years later, the other people involved forgot it almost immediately, if they even noticed at all. We are all so consumed by our own inner spotlight that we massively overestimate how much others notice and remember our slips. Everyone is the anxious star of their own 3 a.m. replay, far too busy cringing over their own moments to have stored yours. The audience you're still performing for, in your memory, left the theater long ago. There's even a name for this: the way we overestimate how much others notice us. The truth is that other people's attention is a faint, flickering thing, mostly pointed at themselves, and the harsh spotlight you feel is one you're holding over your own head. So what do you do when the brain serves up an old humiliation in the dark? First, recognize it for what it is. This is rumination. My brain is treating a harmless old memory like a survival threat, and it's wrong. That simple naming pulls the experience out of the panicky part of the brain and hands it to the calmer, reasoning part, which can see clearly that nothing is actually at stake. The cringe loses some of its charge the moment you label it. Second, understand that fighting the thought tends to feed it. Tell yourself, stop thinking about it, and you've just thought about it again. Instead, the trick is gentle redirection, not suppression. Give your wandering mind something else to settle on: a calming image, the feeling of your breath, a deliberately chosen pleasant memory. You're not wrestling the thought away. You're quietly offering the default mode network a different channel, because it was only playing the cringe reel for lack of anything better to do. And third, try a little self-compassion, which sounds soft but is genuinely powerful. The person in that old memory was doing their best with what they knew at the time. They didn't deserve to be tortured over it for years. You'd never replay a friend's old embarrassment back to them again and again at 3 in the morning. Extend yourself the same mercy. The cringe is, in a strange way, a sign that you care deeply about being good to other people, about belonging, about doing right by your group. That care is a beautiful thing. It's just pointed at the wrong target when it's aimed at a harmless moment from a decade ago. At 3 a.m., when your brain leans in and whispers, "Remember this old shame," you can answer it differently. You can recognize the ancient alarm doing its overzealous job, flagging a long-dead social stumble as if your place in the tribe still hung on it. You can remember that no one else carries this memory but you. And you can offer the cringing, younger version of yourself a little kindness instead of another round of torment. The memory replays because your brain cares too much about belonging, not because anything is wrong with you. You can let it care, thank it for trying to protect you, and go back to sleep.